Anyways, so while we were watching the Summer Game Fest and everything like that, apparently, like 22 hours ago, the Lego scandal just keeps getting messier. So we have a Moist Critical update, and apparently it has gotten worse. I don't know what has happened now, but apparently we got a few things apparently that's happening. So I'm super curious what's going on now. I can't wait. I'm excited to see this. I've been so
Help! A
invested, to be
short
honest.
bearded man has fallen into addiction in Lego City. But I don't want to give up the needle. I am glued to this Lego scandal, and today has been an action packed day of new developments in this case. I'll start with the one everyone has now seen. The Bricks and Minifigs franchise owners, the stars of the circus that had been the subject in most of the video coverage around this case, Brandon Best and Joshua Johnson, aka Voldemort and Dr. Evil, have reached a mutual agreement with Bricks and Minifigs to part ways. They announced the permanent
What?
closure of its Salem, Oregon store, the one at the heart of this scandal. They announced this like it's fucking E3, as well as making a mention that there was a mutual agreement reached with the franchise owners of that location, Brandon Best and Joshua Johnson, due to a devastating social media campaign. So they send them out with a sad song on the world's smallest violin. They then immediately speedrun to massaging their sack and trying to put the crosshairs instead on the previous owner. They talk about how there's an investigation that's still ongoing, but their current investigation points to the real bad guys as the previous owners, which are the Gormans. They talk about gross negligence, significant evidence of gross negligence, as well as
Really?
operational gaps during the transition and subsequent management of document recovery. They then provide a lot of information that they've gathered through their investigation, and some of it does have corroborating evidence that other
Really?
outside parties are now talking about and providing as well. And I'll get into that in a moment because it does seem like there was a lot of really convoluted, messy problems here even before BB and JJ, Brandon Best and Joshua Johnson, got involved here from the top turnbuckle.
Holy
What I find
shit.
interesting though is that they are immediately going into it's the previous owners, let's all forget about this. Yes, Brandon and Josh are gone. Okay, we can celebrate, but let's talk about the real villains. When even if Brandon and Joshua weren't immediately responsible for how sloppy everything got
Uh-huh.
off rip,
Yep.
they are responsible for their own behavior. We
Of
have
course.
oodles of body cams, which I know about the unredacted body cams. I watch those. It definitely doesn't look good for the bricks and mini side of things,
Nope.
bricks and minifig side of things, but I don't believe I'm actually allowed to show anything or talk about that in depth because I don't know if it's entirely legal how they were obtained. But even outside of that, we have the evidence of Brandon and Josh's behavior to Ben on camera and the things that were being said over the phone and how aggressive and vulgar and hostile they were immediately,
Yep.
even upon just a request to try and get this resolved amicably. So again, even if they're not solely responsible for all of the hoopla legally with the consignment and all of that and what was coming from corporate or what was coming from franchisee, they didn't conduct themselves professionally in any way, shape, or form and only served to exacerbate issues.
But Johnson, the new owner of this franchise, also claimed that he had the right to that property. Here's the statement that he made to police, quote, "However, due to the claim that Mr. Mansell continues to call the business despite being told not to and encouraging others to do so as well, he does not want to give these items to Mr. Mansell." He added that he also doesn't feel he needs to since the store's inventory became his once he took it over. So he didn't want to give the items to Mansell because of Mansell's phone calls? And why didn't the police order him to return the sets to Mansell immediately? I guess we'd have to talk to the DA.
I wanted to briefly dump that clip from the Legal video in here because I think that is just comical coming from a ghoul like Josh, who is just like the caricature of a Reddit telephone tough guy. He talks all big and strong, puffs out his chest over the phone. Fuck you, bitch. You stole the Legos. Let's
Yeah, I remember
tango. Don't
that.
tussle with the muscle. That kind of stuff. Like he's recorded melting down and crashing out multiple times throughout this whole thing. And then he's like, oh, well, he hurt my feelings. He kept calling us and that annoyed me, so I'm not giving it back. In fact, I don't even think I need to. I took over the store, which means everything in it is mine now. Which, in a surprise to absolutely no one, isn't exactly how that works. And it's something Legal Eagle goes in depth on towards the end of the video about, like, the messiness of consignment and stuff like that, and giving examples of, like, how probably don't have the ability to just not give that back. But, again, he's not the only legal analyst that has weighed in on this. There's been so many like lawyers and a ton of like law professionals that have been weighing in on this case because it's just exploded. It's massive. And what's so interesting is how there is so many differing opinions and perspectives from lawyers and experts in law across not just YouTube, but on other outlets as well. There is like no consensus on the whole thing. Some people believe it's a slam dunk case of theft or like a corporate fucking hoo-ha that, you know, they're way in the wrong. And others actually believe that it's not as clear cut as that. The one thing that seems to be agreed upon by everyone is that it is very messy, but Bricks and Minifigs didn't act optimally. They certainly weren't doing the best here, especially not the franchisees. Like everyone that said Brandon Best and Joshua Johnson. So even if there is like some convoluted legalese that makes it a little trickier, ultimately nobody handled it perfectly, which has made it become such a nuclear bomb of drama. Now, there has been a lot of new information, like I mentioned, and a big piece of that is calling into question the actual value of the Legos from the very beginning. It has always been alleged 200K worth of Legos. And in fact, that's even what it was marketed as. But apparently that was all just, you know, hype train stuff and not representative of the actual value of the Lego collection. It was all just buzz. So through the Bricks and Minifig investigation, as well as others coming forward and going through it all, the speculation is now that it was around 100K worth of Legos, and that of the remaining Legos that hadn't been sold already, it was as low as 6,200, but that varies from source to source. Because again, throughout all of this, it is still impossible to know what exactly is true and what is speculative. So like finding the truth amongst all of the sludge here is still really difficult. But now there's a call into question about like the total value of the Lego sets themselves. Also, some of them had been returned. Bricks and Minifigs is trying to make the claim that they've been trying so desperately to work with Brian for so long to get this resolved, and it breaks their heart, that kind of thing.
Right.
When on camera, you can watch the CEO, Ammon, who just did an interview, by the way, that I want to show you some clips from, just outright refusing to even engage with Ben about it or even entertaining the idea of trying to get things solved, instead wanting to go scorched earth off rip, rolling up his sleeves like, okay, let's get after it then. And now all of a sudden he's, you know, the Zen master. He's fucking, you know, peace on earth.
The only reason why is because he's saving his public image of the company, because his company is going downhill now because of this. This has exploded worldwide now. Well, nationwide anyways. I don't know if it's gone worldwide.
Why can't we all be friends kind of guy? Like, so he's really changed his tune now, even though on camera before all of this blew up, he was really adamant about, you know, guess we're gonna have to go, you know, have a fight about it. Saving image. So now all of a sudden, Bricks and Minifigs is like, we just want to help, we want to make them whole, when all the evidence points to the contrary for the longest time. And another big piece of this is still about consignment. That has been what the huge part has been for a long time. I'll get to that in a moment, but another thing is about like the Gormans, because another thing that's come out is that Crystal had actually had some of Brian's father's Legos at her house, not at the store, which is pretty odd. There was also multiple bookkeeping, which made things even more shady and weird. So there was already a lot of moving pieces here. Now they're also saying that Brian wasn't actually being properly compensated by the Gormans, the previous owners of the location, and that's just unacceptable. So Bricks and Minifigs is stepping up. They're the heroes, actually. We should be rallying behind Bricks and Minifigs, because look at it, look at how much they're doing to try and help the little guy, even though the whole journey here has been them doing everything they can to face fuck him and like bury this. So they have really flip-flopped on their tone behind all of this. but they are now providing information about like this investigation that they're doing, and others are also investigating independently of Bricks and Minifigs and finding similar things. So it has been quite a lot going on. Another thing that's been called into question is the legitimacy of Bin's claim about their victory in small claims court. That also has a lot of messiness associated with it and a lot of question marks now. So this whole thing is starting to get even more wild and wacky and just this crazy fucking web. Now, I want to show you another clip from Legal Eagle's video in regards to consignment, because like I said, that is still one of the biggest pieces here, and there is, on security camera footage, inarguably, a higher level position at Bricks and Minifigs confirming that they're taking on that consignment liability, which may not be technically binding, but it does seem like that is a big deal, that they did verbally state that that's going to happen. And Bricks and Minifigs keeps denying that they do consignment, and they always train against
that is very
it. But
true.
all the evidence points to, in their contracts, they do allow for consignment. So why are they contradicting themselves? Also, the CEO has become addicted to humiliation. He's doing his own nationwide humiliation ritual and is going on like the YouTuber shows where he is again contradicting some of the statements that have come forth from the company. Are you serious? So the whole thing is very fucking peculiar. But anyway, here's the consignment piece towards the end of Legal Eagle's video that I think is pretty important to the overall case.
Okay.
But Bricks and Minifigs Corporate has argued that consignments violated franchise policy or were unauthorized under the franchise agreement. So we took a look at the Bricks and Minifigs 2003 franchise agreement, which does not say that stores can't use consignment. Quote, subject to our standards, specifications, and approval, if we so require, you may also offer the following products and services. Consignment services. And that's just on the first page. And the franchise agreement template reiterates that on the first page, quote, additionally, franchisees may also offer consignment services. And Reckless Ben states in an update that Crystal Law provided the actual franchise agreement that she signed, which explicitly allows consignment agreements. Now, additionally, there are 4 references to consignment in these documents, and none of them are an outright prohibition. And even if Bricks and Minifigs Corporate outlawed consignment agreements, that agreement only addresses the relationship between Bricks and Minifigs and the Gormans, not the ownership of the Star Wars collection.
He goes on to say that that's between the Gormans and Bricks and Minifigs in that case, not Brian. He is completely independent of that, and his property rights are independent of that. He then goes on to give you an example of what he believes the logic that would be applied here would be.
But either way, I don't think that argument automatically transforms third-party property into franchisor property. To illustrate that principle, if a franchisee violated policy by storing a friend's vehicle on business premises, the franchisor could discipline the franchisee and terminate the agreement, but absent some independent legal mechanism, the franchisor would not become the owner of that vehicle. And I think the same logic would apply here.
And to me, that's the simplest way of looking at it, and it's how most people are viewing it, myself included. If, as Bricks and Minifigs says, they don't do consignment, but in this case, the franchisee went rogue, which is what Ammon is now claiming, which I'm going to show you in a moment. If that is the case, why are they still not giving the Legos that they have back? Why has it been such a stink? Why has it been a fucking slobber knocker here, vehemently fighting against it? Now again, all the evidence seems to point to that being a liar, liar, plants for hire moment from Bricks and Minifigs, considering in the contracts that we have available for us to sink our little teeth in, they do outright say that consignment is permissible. There is no prohibitive language around that to forbid franchisees from doing consignment. Crystal provided her contract that says that consignment is possible. But as Legal Eagle says, it is also possible that maybe there was an update to that where they then did outlaw it and they signed it. That's possible, but we're just guessing. We don't know. What we do know, though, is that based on these contracts, there is nothing prohibitive about consignment with Bricks and Minifigs from these franchisees. But anyway, again, if it isn't something they do, then why have they been so against giving it back?
Because they love Star Wars, bro. That's the reason why. Just like what you chatters told me. It's like, maybe because, maybe in his childhood, he didn't have those Star Wars those Lego Star Wars figures. And now, since they're now in his possession, well, Lord and behold, what do you expect? He wants to have them specifically in his collection, that could basically happen, Hey, you, how you doing there, hun? Welcome, welcome. How are you doing?
Josh was even like, I don't feel like giving it back. He was calling us. He was hitting me up on the horn. He was
Mucho
ringing
gusto,
my telephone, and I didn't like when he did
bienvenidos.
that. So I'm just not going to do it. And I don't even think I really need to, actually. So you can suck on my fucking winky. You want to suck on my wiener? How about that? How about that instead of giving me back the Legos? Like, again, if you don't do it, then you shouldn't have it there.
Exactly.
It's not yours.
Yep.
Should give it back.
Yep.
Should have to give it back.
Yep.
And that's still, even after watching Legal Eagle and tons of other law experts
I've been seeing
and
a lot of
lawyers
other,
and everything
yep.
weigh in on it, like it still seems to be like, yeah, they don't really have true authority to seize that collection there just because the previous owners had a consignment deal that now they don't do consignment doesn't mean the new owners get to swoop in and now it's theirs. It's still Brian's property would be independent of whatever happened there, at least as I understand it. And with the example that Legal Eagle gives there, I think that makes a lot of sense. If a franchisee takes in a vehicle, they discipline the franchisee, say kick dirt, that doesn't mean that the franchisor now owns that vehicle because of that. That would be a huge can of worms. That'd be a huge fucking issue, and that'd be very easy to exploit. So I just don't see a world where there's any real justification for not giving him the Legos back or anything of that.
But we know that consignment agreements can be very difficult, and so we make sure that in our operations manual, through all of our training, we train all franchisees that consignment is not part of our model. It's written into the operations manual, it's trained on, it's very explicit. However, unfortunately, we had a franchisee go rogue and enter into a consignment agreement without.
So you're telling me that it's their fault that they did the consignment thing? That's crazy to say that. So they're basically blaming the store basically for doing the consignment thing.
Our knowledge or authorization.
Stop twirling your mustache, Ammon. Holy cannoli. Jiminy Christmas, bro, stop twirling it. You actually look like a comic book bad guy. And the way he talks about the previous owners, the Gormans, he's talking about it like, Jesus Christ, that's Jason Bourne. She just signed a consignment agreement without our know-how, without our permission, our authorization. Holy shit. That kind of thing. And he's talking about like how they explicitly state no consignment, that kind of thing. We train them against it. That's forbidden. We spit on consignment. But again, if you look at the contracts, it is in there as an option. It is not prohibitive. So
Yep.
I don't know where this is coming from, unless it's a newer thing, which is possible. It definitely could be a newer thing. But then why doesn't he make it more clear and more transparent? Like, yes, we did offer consignment services as an option to our franchisees, but we recognized how messy and difficult that can be, so we did stop that practice not too long ago with an updated agreement with franchise locations. And one of the stores must not have paid attention, and they did a consignment deal. That would be, if that is the case, by the way, there's nothing to even let us know whether or not he's being truthful about that being something they explicitly forbid, because again, all of the evidence seems to point to in their contracts, you can do consignment, but it's just so slimy, because he's not addressing the very clear proof that's out there of their actual contracts where consignment is thumbs up. You can do it. Here he's just saying, explicit.
It feels like he's just trying to save his own ass and basically blaming the store that they're the ones that did the thing that they're not supposed to do because it's not in their blah 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 blah. But then the problem is, it's like, well, it says right here specifically, right there, that we can do it. Actually, it doesn't forbid us from doing it. We can actually do it.
Forbidden. No, 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 no. No consignment, no consignment. Like he's the pomegranate lady. That's just, see, this is one of those things I'm talking about where a lot of what comes from Bricks and Minifigs is seemingly not truthful and feels misleading on purpose.
And then it appears that
Dude, he
may
really
not have
does
been
look
honored
like
with
an
the
evil
person that
cartoon with
she
this
had entered into that
mustache.
consignment agreement with. And then through other circumstances, we ended up retaking over that store. And in the shuffle, there appears to have been just some confusion as to how, why, and what.
He's not even looking at the camera either. He's already fumbling his words and everything like that. So he's already automatically lying already. You can tell by body language.
where, like
His
some of
facial.
this came about. And as we tried to figure that out, we started uncovering more documents, more information. And what we found was that there were 3 separate sets of records that were being kept that shows that Mr. Mansell was significantly underpaid by that former franchisee. And so we've been trying to make sure that we can properly do like a forensic accounting and make sure everything is being looked at properly so that we can work together to get that family resolution.
He's had a big change of heart, it seems, because again,
Jesus
on camera, he
Christ.
showed no interest at all in actually trying to solve this peacefully and get Brian
Oh my
what he
God.
was owed. But now all of a sudden, he's out there acting like he's Brian's best
Yosemite
friend. Like, come
Sam?
home, buddy. We miss you. Bricks and Minifigs is
He
here
does
to
look like
help. We only
Yosemite
want what's
Sam.
in your best interest.
Just
Let
give
us
him the
make you whole.
cowboy
We're
hat.
doing everything we can to support you because we care so much about you, Brian. Come on, Squirt. Come on, let's solve this. When previously he showed less than zero interest in
Yep.
doing that and was ready to put up
Especially
a big
from
old
the
fight about
recordings
it.
too as well.
Again, I don't know if I'm allowed to talk about like the body cam stuff, but this is a very different side of Ammon here. I believe this is the PR side. I don't believe
Yep.
anything here is genuine
just
at all.
PR.
I think this has become such a huge issue that's bubbled over so much so now that they can't just try and bully him into silence, which is something that again is on camera as a method that Bricks and Minifigs likes to employ, where one of them, Kai, I already forgot how you say his name, but even just outright said, like, yeah, it is a threat. You can perceive it as a threat because it kind of is a threat about how they will drain them legally in court, where they will be paying so much money fighting Bricks and Minifigs legally that they will lose more than they would have ever gained had they won. It is something that they've done numerous times and something they were very proud of. But now all of a sudden, Ammon's out here like, yeah, let's solve this. Come on, let's get this all resolved. We're buds, bro.
What a piece of shit person, to be honest.
Just so fake. It's so phony. And again, Ammon was just on YouTube streams, what, 3 nights ago now? Where it was a very different tough guy Ammon there. At least a little bit tougher than this. He wasn't the soft shell looking to really help Brian all that much. It was a much more combative version. But now he's more docile. And it's important to keep in mind that it's not like Bricks and
I definitely have to see that specific thing or so. Does he show it? No, he doesn't show it, right? No, he doesn't. But I would love to see that though.
All of a sudden, sunshine and rainbows.
Just a clip
we want to
of it
just help
anyways.
everybody. We just got information from the CEO of Patreon that they have filed all the legal paperwork to try and force Patreon to remove Ben's Patreon account, which is his main source of income.
Well.
They're trying to strip him of his main source of income to silence and bully him, which is the standard play from Bricks and Minifigs, it seems, based on all available evidence. And the CEO, Ammon, has the gall to go out there now and be like, guys, we just want to help. Ben, let us help, dude. We're just here to help, man. It was the previous owners that fucked you, not us. No, dude, let us make you whole again. He says that so many times. And I believe that's because maybe he's in a more desperate position now because
the man is finally singing a different tune, huh?
Partners no longer feel comfortable doing business with them. There was a statement put out by one of their big partners here, minifigs.me, and they don't feel comfortable working with Bricks and Minifigs, despite this being a huge blow to them on a business side. Minifigs.me, that is. It wasn't an easy decision for them to make, but this has become such.
Let me see. Hold on. Can I go back? So, hello, Nick and Caroline here, owners of minifigs.me. As many of our customers will be aware, serious allegations have recently been made against our franchise in the US called Bricks and Minifigs by YouTuber Reckless Ben. We have been suppliers for this company for many years as they grow from a single store to many, but we can no longer continue to do this in good conscience. We have been waiting for some of the facts to become more clear or for some of the other information to come to light before making this decision. But we're at the point where we have to stand by our principles. This is extremely costly decision for us. Bricks and Minifigs franchise has been our biggest reliable combined customer every year, providing a substantial income. In addition, we know that there is a lot of ordinary Bricks and Minifigs store owners that have nothing to do with these allegations. We hope that together they can persuade the franchise as a whole to improve and heal. In the meantime, we love to hear about your favorite local independent stores. We'll be making a concerted effort to reach out and support them. For me and Carolina, we always imagine we sell little moments of joy in a box. It's important to protect that.
a big story that now
Damn.
brands that have worked with Bricks and Minifigs don't feel comfortable continuing to do business with them.
That's
So I think Ammon
crazy.
has now been alerted to how bad all of this has gotten for them, and is now just trying to say what he believes will cause all of it to simmer down, which is, we want to make them whole. We're here to help. Josh and Brandon are gone. We've parted ways. They've sailed off into the sunset. Can you guys please just drop this? Like, it just feels like it's now all about saving face and covering their
Yep.
own ass in this PR
Yep.
battle, because it's now actually affecting them in a noticeable way. When previously, before this became a huge story, Ammon showed no interest in trying to resolve this. Nobody at Bricks and Minifigs has shown interest to resolve this based on all of the information that's been publicly put out there.
Even once this is all finished and everything like that, and he got his Legos back or whatever, the reimbursement or whatever exactly. I'm gonna be honest with you, this will hurt the image for them for such a long time, to be honest. Especially how terrible they are and how they act towards other people. I'm like, I wouldn't be surprised, if they act evil or bad towards other people in general. So
So it just seems like it's because it's blown up so much now that they're finally acting. But that doesn't help dissuade fears of Bricks and Minifigs customers who are maybe considering working with them, where if it doesn't blow up into a huge story, you might just be fucked. Because based on everything we've seen from like the behavior of those franchisees, as well as Ammon himself, they don't seem to really care that much to try and resolve issues like privately and peacefully. It seems like they're only now springing into action to try and help Brian get what should have already been taken care of previously. So it feels like it's very tardy to the party here, with them actually looking to do the right thing of making Brian Mansell whole and figuring out what exactly went on here with a real investigation. And like I said, a lot of this new information that's coming out from multiple parties does call into question a lot of things that have been put forth from like the first couple of videos from Reckless Bin with some of the claims and things like that. But I will say, in regards to like the police department stuff, I haven't really seen anything to like justify how everything's unfolded with how the police themselves have handled this whole case. That is still something that is very much in a really weird spot. But in regards to like if Ben stepped out of line legally, like within the bounds of the law, or if he did things solely for content that actually was detrimental to getting this solved, as well as some of like the claims he made about the small claims court default judgment victory, things like that, all of that is what's now being thrown into a bit of disarray. I'm curious to see Ben's response to it.
I'm actually curious on that, actually.
On that conversation now. But there has been a lot of new information, and no matter how you look at it, the fact of the matter is, it should have never gotten to this point. There was a very real problem with the way Bricks and Minifigs, the corporation, handled all of this, as well as the way they handled the takeover of this location, making it very sloppy and very messy with the previous owners and then the new franchisees coming in with a fucking chip on their shoulder and steam out of their ears, making it irreconcilable here, where an innocent man and his father's lifelong Lego collection got thrown into a shitstorm. So, and there was no real way of getting it solved through the proper channels, allegedly, based on everything we've seen here. And the corporation showed no signs of trying to work with him privately. They keep saying that they were insisting that Brian provide documents, but he kept dodging that. I find that claim a little hard to believe. That's he said, she said shit, of course, but I find that very difficult to imagine. Brian was just like sweating when they asked for documentation, when there already is documentation that the public has access to, so Brian definitely would have as well. He probably would have submitted it if that was actually something that they wanted. And Bricks and Minifigs in their previous statement was talking about how Ben and his team didn't want to submit anything to him, but there is literal videos of them trying to submit the evidence to them, and Bricks and Minifigs not being receptive to it. So I'm more inclined to believe Brian's account of things, where Bricks and Minifigs wasn't willing to work with him to resolve this through this messy takeover of that location, where his Legos got all lost in translation and everything got all fucking cattywampus. Again, the fact of the matter is, an innocent man and his father's collection of Legos that he spent his whole life collecting, that was very valuable, got lost in a shitstorm here of a corporation that doesn't seem to care about what happened there and didn't really care to investigate that thoroughly, as well as some franchise owners that really immediately held a grudge against him. Again, according to that document, he'd even said he doesn't want to give him back because of the phone calls. That's some pretty goober shit.
Yeah.
So this whole thing seems like a fucking mess, even more so
Jesus
now
Christ.
than like
I didn't think
a
it would
week
get any
ago.
messier than this.
So yeah, I just wanted to give you the little update on it. That's really about it.
Okay, so now the only thing we have to do is that we have to wait for, you know, his response on the whole thing about the default thing, see what happens or so. Like I said, there's still the like I've been so engrossed in this. It's been like my favorite thing to watch or so. And honestly, it's been fucking crazy. Honestly, what an entire shit show it has became to be for over Legos, literally just Legos. If it's true, if it was just literally only 100K, if that's the actual value of the Lego set itself, brother, what are you doing? You are literally destroying your own company for 100K of Legos. That's even way worse than 200K, okay? All right, that's even far worse. That makes you look even pettier, to be honest. I'm like, my man's crashing out over 100K worth of Legos. You cannot be serious with me. And I thought it couldn't get any worse, to be honest. If that's true, if that's actually true, if the actual cost of the actual Legos themselves are actually 100K, I'm like, bruh. And apparently they fit in more for money in they fin. Oh, you mean find? Oh. They find more money in is on the case. We'll see, to be honest. He's going to respond to some bullshit and lie. Well, we're gonna see what Ben has to say. Reckless Ben has to say. So that's the only thing, because I know they're gonna be like what in episode 3 or something like that for this thing, for this entire shebang and everything like that. I don't know. We'll, like I said, we'll see what's going on. To be frankly honest, there's a lot of things that's happening. It's pretty messy at the end of the day. I'm more interested in all those cops being investigated. That's true. I want those cops to be investigated and fired and fucking tried for corruption over there, to be honest. CEO went from barely known to hated by millions. That's true. That's very true. It's not just about Brian anymore. The FBI should investigate those cops. The Lego scandal is a trivial now compared to the police corruption it has unearthed. There seriously needs to be a federal investigation into those officers. This needs to be on the playlist at this point. I swear. No. They aren't the only people that need to be investigated. The entire police department needs to be reviewed and replaced. That is very true. That is very true. So the names of the AFPD officers involved: Lieutenant Quinn, Officer Richardson, Officer Stephen, Officer Luke, Officer Samuel, Officer Tonga, Officer Benson, Officer Jennings, Officer Freyton. The search warrant was approved by the 4th District Judge Judge Roger W. Griffin. Oh, interesting. Is going to be very helpful for Afro Man. Dude, there needs to be an Afro Man diss track for these officers, to be honest. Charlie Peace never stopped covering this until Brian and his father gets justice. Dude, this has been crazy. I've been enjoying this too. Yeah, so yeah, like for those who don't know, the leaked footage has been out for the thing itself. Reckless Ben did actually cover on that. So I watched Reckless Ben specifically point of view of his video just in case. We did watch the original one, but like, you know, just in case, I'd rather watch Reckless Ben's version of it, just in case there's not any problems whatsoever. You know, I'm not gonna get into trouble or so with that specific like, this is very messy. This is like very messy, so I'm being super careful. That's the only reason why I'm watching Moist Critical's version, just in case, because I know for a fact that one of his videos got silenced in a certain part of a section of his video, and I'm super curious if that got copyrighted or so from, you know, well, from, you know, Lord behold themselves. So that's the only reason why I've been watching only Penguin Zero, or if there's certain topics or so, or if Reckless Ben immediately uploads a video or so on that subject while we're live and everything, we watch Reckless Ben's version as well. So that's kind of like basically it. So, but yeah, anyways, well, we'll see what happens. There's still more to come at the end of the day. I know for a fact this is not over. This is definitely not over. If it's actually literally worth only 100K, brother in Christ, you need to go check yourself out because holy shit, you are crashing out over 100K worth of Legos. It is not worth your company that's worth millions of dollars to be fucking crashing out over goddamn Legos. But yeah, anyways. Ay, cuídate, entonces, take care. Anyways, thank you for coming by as always, and I'll catch you all on the next video. And peace.